We're kicking off with NXT as a tag title match between the Street Profits and Nathan Frazier and Axiom was cut short thanks to the Bloodline, who laid waste to both teams. This was certainly a surprise to fans as the group had not been promoted or even teased for the show, and WWE made a concerted effort to keep the faction a closely guarded secret. Corey Brennan of Fightful Select reports that there was a heavy focus on keeping the Bloodline under wraps for this week's NXT, and those efforts clearly paid off. The Bloodline's focus will now shift to SmackDown, where Solo Sikoa has a WWE Championship opportunity, and despite this being a cage match, keeping his allies at bay has proven easier said than done. On Raw, Bret Hart appeared in front of a passionate Canadian crowd, but his segment was interrupted by Gunther, who declared that Bill Goldberg is his favorite wrestler. Gunther declared that while Bret is the best there was, he is the best there is and ever will be, and how did this segment come together? PW Torch reports that Triple H was responsible for the promo and asked Bret's permission a couple of days prior to Raw to see whether the Hitman would approve of the Goldberg line. The Game visited Bret, who was fine with the comment about Goldberg, but turned down the initial plan for Gunther to attack him, albeit carefully. Bret declined this idea, likely due to his recent health issues, as shortly before Raw, Fightful reported that Hart had been sick and said his status for Raw was up in the air. Thankfully, Bret made it to the show, and what do you think of his segment and Gunther's interruption and comments? Share your thoughts down below. At All Out, Jon Moxley stunned fans by attacking and suffocating Bryan Danielson following his successful world title defense, leaving fans to speculate on Moxley's reasons for his turn. On Dynamite, Moxley said that he and Danielson had intentions of starting something new in AEW, but the egos running rampant backstage proved to be too much to handle. He suggested that he could no longer tolerate out-of-control attitudes in the locker room and recalled William Regal calling Danielson his favorite wrestler, a comment that stuck with him. Moxley added that Regal, who he called his lordship, had told him that men like them can't be anything other than who they are, before calling himself the one true king of these lands. Moxley rejected the idea of being a villain or a hero and ended his segment by stating, "I choose war," ending the powerful start to Dynamite that made clear his feud with Bryan is far from over. After the opening video segment, Private Party, Commander, and Alex Abrahantes made their way to the ring for a match, but were blindsided by Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Marina Shafir, and Pac. On the mic, Pac said that AEW is broken and called what happened at All Out inevitable as the faction itself, before stating he now has a purpose to believe in. Pac declared that diplomacy had failed and that this company is ours, reiterating what Moxley had said at the start of the show. One notable absence from all this was Wheeler Yuta, the other third of the AEW Trios champions alongside Pac and Castagnoli, who was held back by Pac at All Out. Yuta was seen weeping at All Out, weeping as Danielson was attacked, and in the video that opened the show, was seen by Bryan's side as he was taken out of the arena after All Out. It appears that Yuta will remain aligned with Bryan in all of this, but what do you think about Moxley's inevitable new group? Let us know down in the comments. Later in the show, Jon Moxley made his way to the ring with Marina Shafir, and the pair were confronted by Darby Allin, the man Mox had been looking for upon his return to TV. Allin expressed how much Moxley inspired him early in his career, saying it was Moxley's resilience that kept him motivated, before saying many have advised him to slow down. The former TNT champion went on to share his gratitude to AEW, stating that he was homeless before AEW began, and recalled his first meeting with Moxley in a high school gym. That match confirmed to Allin that he belonged in the ring with someone like Moxley, but then Allin was delivered some unfortunate news by Moxley himself. Moxley said that Allin won't be getting his earned AEW World title match at Grand Slam on September 25th, as the champion is indisposed, but called this a blessing in disguise. His reasoning is that Allin wasn't ready for such an opportunity and demanded he relinquish the title shot, but Allin fired back, asking Moxley if he'd been drinking again. This nod to Moxley's personal problems was followed by Allin refusing to give up his title shot, and a match was made between the two for the Grand Slam Dynamite. This match will see Allin's world title opportunity on the line, and will come after Allin first won the title shot at the Royal Rampage match in July of this year. That win came after he secured himself a TNT title match at All In inside Blood and Guts, but now Allin is at risk of losing his opportunity to become world champion. Moxley vowed to teach Allin a hard lesson. Allin accepted the challenge, warning that he would drag Moxley into the fire as Mox tries to burn AEW to the ground. What's your take on this booking decision for AEW? Do you like where it's heading? Let us know what you think in the comments section. The penultimate segment of the night saw Nigel McGuiness in the ring, fresh off his return to action as part of the Casino Gauntlet match at All In. Nigel mentioned that while Darby Allin will face Jon Moxley at Grand Slam, that a champion should compete at the event, and pulled out a contract for a match of his own at the event. Despite concerns, Tony Khan approved it, and it was officially announced that he will face Bryan Danielson on September 25th, though there was no mention of if this will be a title match. This announcement brought a holy chant from the Lexington crowd, and Nigel promised that Oasis will play me to the ring, or will Bryan Danielson join me for the final countdown? McGuiness then called Danielson a coward to end the segment, and Grand Slam is shaping up to be a major event for AEW, despite a rather obvious plot hole that was made on Dynamite. The reason for the Moxley-Allin match being cancelled is that Danielson is indisposed, but now we know that Bryan can wrestle on that show, but fans won't see the previously promised match with Allin. Danielson will still wrestle on the show, rather than being pulled completely. What's your take on this latest match announcement for AEW Grand Slam? Were you surprised? And do you think Bryan Danielson will defeat Nigel McGuiness? Let us know in the comments. When it was confirmed that Bobby Lashley and MVP were leaving WWE, it was immediately speculated that a Hurt Business reunion was coming and that the pair could head to AEW. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, the Hurt Business have had talks with AEW recently, sparking interest in fans that the group will imminently be joining the company. That appears to be the case, as in an update from Wade Keller, it's reported that the group are likely to join AEW in a month or so, but won't be going by the Hurt Business name. That term is owned by WWE, which is why 2 weeks ago, MVP filed a trademark for the term the Hurt Syndicate with Totally Harmless Concept LLC, a team MVP has worked with before. There's also the question as to whether Shelton Benjamin will be joining MVP and Lashley, as he is also a free agent after being released from WWE in September of last year. One name fans shouldn't expect to see in the Hurt Syndicate is Cedric Alexander, who signed a new contract with WWE earlier this month that'll keep him from the faction. But what do you think of this? Are you excited for the Hurt Syndicate in AEW? And do you see them succeeding in the company? Let us know down in the comments. This week, much has been said about WWE listing a replica of the friendship bracelet made for CM Punk by a fan for sale, and promptly removed the item after fan backlash. Now WWE has relisted the bracelet, but with some changes, as instead of beads reading AJ and Larry, they now have the name CM Punk instead. This was a small alteration, but it didn't change the overall look of the piece, as do you think this is a fair solution to the bracelet made by Victoria, the CM Punk fan? Sound off down below. This Friday, TNA will host its Victory Road event, and while the TNA Knockouts World title will be on the line, it won't be against one of the company's own wrestlers. Instead, Jordynne Grace will step into the ring tomorrow night against NXT's Wendy Choo in the latest example of the partnership between NXT and TNA. On this week's NXT, Grace defended her title against Sol Ruca, but when the lights went out, the Juggernaut was stunned to find herself facing Rosemary, and she was blindsided by Choo. Choo locked in the Cobra Clutch and ended with Wendy and Rosemary celebrating over the day's Knockouts champion, and if that happens again, we could see a title change at Victory Road. Since becoming WWE champion, Cody Rhodes has defended his gold against Logan Paul, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, and Solo Sikoa for a run that has, for the most part, pleased WWE fans. With that said, there's some who feel that this run hasn't lived up to expectations, and on Busted Open Radio, Bully Ray shared that he feels this title reign has been lacking. According to Bully, Rhodes hasn't faced a mega heel who could truly challenge him, and named The Rock as the kind of opponent Cody needs to face. While Bully noted that Rhodes has had some strong challengers, none of them have posed the threat that the final boss did in past rivalries, making Cody's reign feel less impactful. With that said, Bully did make sure to praise Rhodes' work as a top face, as his connection with the fans is second to none. He said, "I love Cody doing the old school way. I love that Cody has the kids in his back pocket. I love that Cody goes above and beyond the call of duty for just about every fan that he meets. I love that Cody answers people on social media. I love that Cody shows up at people's weddings. I love all that, but if I have to be honest and fair about an assessment about something, it's a bit underwhelming. I think it's underwhelming because of the lack of super heels." As we previously reported, WWE's Bad Blood plan is for Rhodes to face Jacob Fatu, not Solo Sikoa, adding an interesting layer to the hierarchy of the Bloodline. Do you believe Cody Rhodes' undisputed WWE title run has been underwhelming so far? What would you have done differently? Let us know in the comments section below. Chris Jericho arrived in style to Dynamite in a new customized Bentley, but this $100,000 expenditure was ruined by his rival Orange Cassidy. After a trios win against the Iron Savages, Jericho grabbed the mic to taunt Cassidy, showing he still had his backpack while flaunting his $7,000 custom suit. Jericho stated that he found a picture of Orange Cassidy and his former allies from the Best Friends faction and said those who claim to be your friends will stab you in the back. As Jericho continued his insults and demanded his money back, Cassidy appeared on the Titantron and shared that he didn't have the money, but his friends did. Right after, Cassidy's allies Kyle O'Reilly and Mark Briscoe drove a construction vehicle and dropped loads of coins onto his Bentley car, frustrating Jericho to end the segment. This segment felt similar to Stone Cold destroying Vince McMahon's Corvette with cement, as just like in 1998, the face got under the heel's skin through the latter's beloved vehicle. It's since been confirmed that the Learning Tree will take on Orange Cassidy next week, as Jericho looks to get revenge on the man who ruined his Bentley. What are your thoughts on Orange Cassidy and his allies ruining Chris Jericho's new car on AEW Dynamite, and who do you think will win next week? Sound off in the comments. In a tense interview with Renee Paquette, Hangman Page dismissed the idea of feeling regret for the violence at All Out and added that he'd burn 1,000 Swerve Strickland homes if he could. He even went as far as to say that he would have continued punishing Strickland for an eternity if the steel cage hadn't been lifted from the ring at All Out. Page's aggression didn't stop with Strickland though, as he issued a warning to anyone who stood in his way, and the night saw the Cowboy cross paths with Top Flight, Dark Order, and Jeff Jarrett. Double J told Page he was spiraling down a dark path devoid of guilt, shame, or remorse, and added that the Cowboy would regret the day he laid his hands on Jeff's wife Karen. This led to a violent brawl with Page beating Jarrett and tossing him into a pile of chairs, and comes after the pair last shared the ring at All In the Casino Gauntlet match. As the tension between these stars continues to rise, it's clear that Adam Page's fiery attitude isn't going anywhere soon. How will this dark turn impact his future in AEW? Only time will tell. Last year, Matt Riddle's time with WWE came to an end after a series of controversies derailed plans for him, but Riddle knows to never say never in wrestling. Speaking to SI Takedown, Riddle shared his strong belief that returning to WWE is quite high, and gave an example of someone else who was supposedly never going to return. He said, "The chances of me going back, I think they're extremely high. If CM Punk, who filed a lawsuit against WWE and then raked them through the mud for a decade, then goes to the competition, I'll tell you this, if he can do that, everything can be forgiven. I know I wasn't the easiest to work with at times. I think the door is always open. I think the longer I'm away, the harder I work, and the more I do, the more likely I could come back. But I'll also say this, if I never go back ever again, and they never talk to me again, I'll be okay with that." The wrestling landscape is always shifting and nothing is ever set in stone, so it remains to be seen if Matt Riddle will make a return to WWE in the future under new management. Do you feel that Matt Riddle will actually return to WWE somewhere down the line? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. The first match on Dynamite began 13 minutes into the show and saw Jack Perry defend his TNT title against Roosh, who had Action Andretti with him. A fast-paced, energy-heavy match was exactly what was needed after beginning with a handful of non-wrestling segments, and Roosh was a great opponent for Perry to face. After losing to Bryan Danielson at All Out, Perry got his heat back by nailing 2 running knee strikes to get the win, ending a solid 10-minute bout. After the match, Perry was asked about bouncing back after his All Out loss and said that, "People like me are crucified in this life so we can be worshipped in the next." It was a cryptic line from Perry, who then boarded his trademark bus. And what do you think he meant with this comment? And who should he face next? Let us know down in the comments. Now, Powerhouse Hobbs hasn't wrestled for AEW since the April 24th Dynamite when he challenged then IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley. There have been signs, though, that a return is imminent, as Sean Ross Sapp reports that Hobbs was present at Dynamite, as well as during All Out weekend. This indicates that Hobbs is back on the road, though of course he hasn't made his return just yet, and fans are waiting to see the big man in action again. What do you think of Powerhouse Hobbs' booking in AEW? Should Tony Khan elevate him to a bigger spot on the card? Share your thoughts in the comments. In an incredible display of athleticism, Sammy Guevara took on Ricochet, with both men enjoying standout moments and shared plenty of chemistry. This is even more impressive when you realize this is the first time they've worked together in 7 years, but in the end, it was Ricochet who got the win with his new finisher. His celebration was short-lived as he was immediately flattened by the Beast Mortos and a spear, but Guevara drove Mortos away with a chair and helped Ricochet to his feet. In just a handful of years, Logan Paul has made an impact on wrestling, with his lengthy reign as US champion being a major highlight, but not everyone is on board with the Maverick. With limited appearances, few title defenses during his reign, and also plenty of controversies, Paul has also drawn criticism, especially from two-time WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash. On his Click This podcast, Nash talked about Paul not knowing basic wrestling terms, a reference to when Paul told Hulk Hogan on the Impulsive podcast that he didn't know what shoot meant. A frustrated Nash said that Logan isn't a part of the wrestling world and wouldn't understand the language as he doesn't travel with wrestlers or spend time learning from them. Not done yet, Nash criticized celebrities like Paul getting paid a ton of money for a few appearances, while full-time wrestlers work hard at smaller shows for much less. While Paul has a big following online, it doesn't make him respected in the wrestling business, according to Nash, but it was only a matter of time before the Maverick responded. On Twitter, Paul asked, "Who is Kevin Nash?" and asserted that while he isn't fully versed in wrestling, he considers himself one of the very best in WWE today. Paul said if he devoted more time to learning the industry, he'd be even more dominant in the ring, and dismissed Nash's criticisms of him as bitterness from a past star. Logan acknowledged his limited schedule, but hinted at plans to increase his WWE appearances next year, though whether or not this actually happens remains to be seen. Whatever the case, it's clear that Logan Paul's presence in wrestling will continue to spark debate among fans and those in the industry about the role of celebrity performers. What are your thoughts on Logan Paul firing back at Kevin Nash for his comments against him? Whose side are you on? Sound off in the comments. More from Dynamite as Ricochet was able to reunite with an old friend following this week's Dynamite, and that person is none other than Chuck Taylor. Taylor has been with AEW since the very start and was part of the Best Friends before the group imploded this year, resulting in a parking lot brawl between Taylor and Trent Beretta. It was revealed shortly after that Taylor had to retire due to ankle-related injuries, but long before his time in AEW, Taylor competed in various promotions and competed against Ricochet. After Dynamite and his match with Sammy Guevara, Ricochet was seen backstage and was embraced by the Kentucky gentleman, and the pair reflected on their time working together. Ricochet shared that Taylor was with him for his first day of training and has been there for practically Ricochet's entire career, making this reunion all the more special. The main event of AEW Dynamite was a tag team casino gauntlet match with a shot at the AEW World Tag Team Championships held by the Young Bucks on the line. FTR started things off with Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher before the Righteous joined the fray, and the Undisputed Kingdom were the next team to enter the gauntlet match. The acclaimed MXM Collection, Top Flight, the Outrunners, who got an insane pop, and the Grizzled Young Veterans rounded things off in a match that went well into overtime to ensure fans got a finish. In the end, it was Ospreay and Fletcher who surprised everyone, including themselves, by getting the win over more established tag teams on AEW's roster. This was a decent bout with some fun multi-man spots, and now Ospreay has a chance at becoming a double champion as he already holds the international title. We'll have to see if Ospreay and Fletcher will be the ones to take the titles from the Young Bucks, but they could easily provide the biggest competition to the AEW EVPs to date. In eliminator action, Queen Aminata took on Women's World Champion Mariah May, and despite not being a regular on TV, Aminata was booked as evenly matched with the champ. The only thing that set them apart was May's willingness to cheat, and this hard-fought match went through a break in the second segment before May got the win. Post-match, May called out to Mina Shirakawa, saying she misses her former partner, and after AEW asked the pair to stop kissing on TV, it seems a reunion is coming. What's your take on Mariah May's current run as AEW Women's World Champion? Do you think Toni Storm will reclaim her title upon her return? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Christian Cage was on Dynamite alongside his patriarchy allies and had strong words for Bryan Danielson, who he nearly cashed his world title match on at All Out. Among a diatribe of insults, Cage brought up Danielson's wife Brie Garcia, claiming that he'll beat Bryan so bad, you'll wish your wife Brie was the one who had CTE so she won't be able to comprehend what an embarrassment you were. Not just satisfied with bringing up dead fathers, Cage has now turned his attention to Bryan's wife. And could this be a tease of the former Divas champion joining AEW? Time will tell. And that was AEW Dynamite, and what did you think of the show? Sound off in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.